Coming up in today's video, I'm going to go through the top 25 players that I want the New Orleans Saints to consider drafting at the 2025 NFL Draft. This is my personal big board, not behind the scenes of what the New Orleans Saints want. This is just what I want. So before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Saints Now by Chat Sports is going to be giving you draft videos every single day leading up to the big day on April 24th. Plus, we'll be live on draft day 1, 2, and more than likely day 3 as well. So be sure to subscribe, lock us in for free Saints videos by Saints fans for Saints fans. Now, I'll also list this 4 players that we're not going to list. I ran so many dang mock drafts. I've seen so many dang mock drafts, and very rarely have we seen any of these players actually land with the New Orleans Saints. It is worth noting Mason Graham is on a top 30 visit. He's scheduled to be the Saints are scheduled to host him on a top 30 visit here shortly. So that's pretty cool. I don't think that any of these guys would fall to 9. If they do, just going to say this, if any of these guys are available at 9, sprint to the board, sprint to the stage with your card with one of these players' names. So let's just get started here. Landon Jaxson, number 25. I can't make one of these videos without listing a Razorback. Y'all know me. I'm a Razorback grad. Woo pig suey. But I'm also here to tell you Landon Jaxson is a really good football player. The stats don't jump off the screen, but he is an athletic freak. He has a really nice size profile, and I do think that the Saints have a need at the edge rusher position, and I think that Brandon Staley could get really, really creative using a player like Landon Jaxson. Walter Nolen at number 24, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I think the Saints definitely need to address the defensive interior. I like Bryan Bresee a lot, but I want to see the Saints really invest in that position at a young spot. Davon Godchaux. I'll be stuttering over my words today, folks. Davon Godchaux, the Saints obviously traded for him. However, I do think Walter Nolen could be an excellent addition alongside Bryan Bresee, so we'll have to see what happens. The Saints were present at the Ole Miss Pro Day. James Pearce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee. Same thing with Landon Jaxson. I think that the Saints could definitely benefit from getting an edge rusher early. Obviously, depending on how the board falls, we'll have to see what happens. I do think James Pearce Jr. is one of the top edge rushers in this class, but I do have some concerns in terms of the character and with all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say they're massive concerns. I just will say they're worth noting and they're worth discussing. But at the end of the day, a good football player is a good football player. Shavon Revel, the cornerback out of ECU. I more than likely would go round 2 with this pick. However, I do think that this is a good selection if you do end up trading back up into the first round later on, round pick 31, 32, or even early on in day 2. I'll also note with James Pearce Jr., if you end up trading back, I think that would be an excellent person to target. But Shavon Revel is a really good cornerback. The Saints have a need at cornerback after losing Marshawn Lattimore in a trade last year. Paulson Adebo walks in free agency. You signed Isaac Yiadom. However, you need some more guys on the roster. I think pairing him up with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor could be really, really fun. Skattebo. This is a player that has been very popular here on the channel. I'm very high on this prospect. He's one of my favorite running back prospects in this draft class, and I will say this. I think that this is not a guy you target in the first or second round, but one of those third-round picks, because you have 2 of them. I think it would make a lot of sense to go and get this guy. He was extremely productive for the Sun Devils, and he was a big reason why Arizona State had the success that they did going into the college football playoff and giving Texas a run for their money and almost taking them down. I think he runs very physically. He runs very hard. He is a willing and solid pass catcher as well. So I think that he can offer some ability in that department too. And I also think when it comes to the running back position, the Saints need to add a running back. Whether it's round 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 7, you don't have a 5th round pick. You got to leave the draft with at least one running back. I think Skattebo would be an excellent person to leave the draft with in the black and gold. Now, let me ask you this question. We've shown a few prospects that could be round 1. We've shown a handful that are round 2. But who do you think the Saints will pick at number 9 overall? Get down in the comment section, share your thoughts, and let me know what you think. I love the idea with going a pass catcher, going with an offensive weapon, maybe even a guy like Ashton Jeanty, Tyler Warren, who knows? Shedeur Sanders, all of those are all solid options, but I want to hear from you, Who Dat Nation. Share your thoughts. Now, Jayden Higgins, the wide receiver out of Iowa State, he's a player that I'm really high on as well. I like the size profile. I like the production that he had for Iowa State. And I think that the Saints have a specific need at wide receiver, and Jayden Higgins fits that specific need. It's a big-bodied, physical, ex-receiver, and I think Jayden Higgins 100% fits that bill. Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. Now, I said that you probably weren't going to land Mason Graham, but why not go get his running mate, Kenneth Grant? He was a really solid defensive tackle as well for the Wolverines, and he played alongside Mason Graham, like I just mentioned, had some good production. However, we're going to stick around in Ann Arbor for number 18, Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. Now, again, I don't think this is a pick at number 9, but later in round 1, if you trade back or if you end up getting the ability to draft him in round 2, that would be awesome. I think that he was really solid for Michigan. He's recovering from an injury, and from what I understand, the recovery is going well. So we'll have to see what happens. I think pairing him up with Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson could be really nice. Jaxson Dart, number 17, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. A lot of people might have him higher. Some people might have him lower, but I'm going to put him kind of not dead in the middle, kind of on the back end, but I'm going to put him closer into the middle here. I actually really like this idea of going and getting a quarterback in round 2 or 3, and I think Jaxson Dart, if he falls to you, is definitely worth it. Mel Kiper mocked him to the Saints at number 9 overall. I think that would be a terrible decision. We've even seen mock drafts where the Saints trade back into the first round to go and get Jaxson Dart. Kellen Moore was present at the Ole Miss Pro Day. He was Jaxson Dart was seen talking with Doug Nussmeier and Scott Tolzien and Kellen Moore. That doesn't mean nothing. I think that is actually something worth noting. He led the SEC in passing. He was really good at protecting the football, 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he has the mobility. I think Kellen Moore could fall in love with this guy as a draft prospect, so we'll have to see what happens on draft day. I think this could be a pick to keep your eye on. Jihaad Campbell, number 16, the linebacker out of Alabama. I believe he is the number 1 linebacker in this draft class, and I actually really like the idea of bringing him in to New Orleans. I think he could be a really good fit in Brandon Staley's system, and I think that Staley could get very, very creative using a player like Campbell who has the versatility in coverage. He also can rush the passer. He's very productive. He's a willing tackler, and I think that he could be an excellent selection for the Saints. Number 9 feels early. However, I also could convince myself that was a good pick if it is at 9. Matthew Goldon, number 15, the wide receiver out of Texas, another bigger-sized wide receiver. I think that, or not bigger wide receiver, but definitely a productive wide receiver, a solid wide receiver, 58 receptions, almost 1,000 yards. He came up big in a lot of moments when the Texas Longhorns needed him to make plays, and Matthew Goldon was a guy who was very reliable for not just Quinn Ewers, but Arch Manning as well. I do like the idea of the Saints going and getting this player. However, I will continue to say this. You have a specific need. So if you can go and get Matthew Goldon in round 1 or round 2, okay. But you still need to lead with a wide receiver who's above 6'2" and has a little bit more muscle in his size profile. I like the idea of Matthew Goldon. I just don't think that it's the biggest need for the New Orleans Saints. Gray Zabel, the tackle out of North Dakota State, he does actually offer versatility to play the guard positions as well. He's very, very solid. Had really good pro football focus grades in tests in terms of his pass blocking, his run blocking, and his overall. He was really, really solid. Didn't give up a lot of sacks, didn't give up a lot of pressures and all that good stuff. So I think that he could be an option for the Saints. Again, number 9 just feels rich. However, I do think that this is a player the Saints should consider at least looking at. Definitely in round 2 if he's available. I don't know if he'd fall, but definitely if he's there. Omarion Hampton. I love this player. I'm really, really high on him. I like him a lot. I do have him ranked above Cam Skattebo because I think he is a better football player. However, I think this one is a little bit more unrealistic because it feels like he wouldn't fall before the Saints, obviously, pick at number 9. But I also don't think he would fall all the way to 40, so we'll have to see what happens there. I do like Omarion Hampton a lot as a player. Very, very productive for the Tar Heels. Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall, he is a really productive player. And that's the big word that we've been using all show long. Production. Is the player productive? I'm tired of going and getting prospects who are athletic freaks, who have really good traits, who have the potential and all of that good stuff. I want proven production. Mike Green, although he was at Marshall, 17 sacks, 81 tackles. That is not an accident. That doesn't happen by mistake. I think that he would be an excellent addition to the Saints pass rush unit, which was not good last year. And I do think that Mike Green could be a good football player. I like his size. I like the athleticism. And I think that he could be a good football player for the National Football League. And I do think that the Saints should definitely consider him. Now, if you want New Orleans to crush this upcoming draft, it's been a while since it feels like we've had an absolutely killer draft. Hit the thumbs up icon, like this video for me, and let's get some good juju here in the building. Jalen Walker at number 11, the linebacker out of Georgia. I'm a big fan of Jalen Walker. I think that he could be a good fit for the New Orleans Saints. I also really want to see what he can do with, or what Kellen Moore can do with Jalen Walker. He is a player that was really good for Georgia. And we all know that Georgia defense has been a big, big staple. He has hybrid talent, and he's really, really good length. He's very twitchy. The rush attack is extremely high athletic. And on top of that, his side and slap move is very impressive. Mykel Williams, another player for the Georgia Bulldogs defense. I like Jalen Walker, but I do, and the versatility that he offers. However, if I want a true pass rusher, I'm going to go with Mykel Williams at number 10 overall. Again, the Saints were bad when it came to bringing production in the sack department. Cam Jordan is not getting any younger. Carl Granderson needs to step it up. Chase Young is your guy. However, we need to see him dominate and take over this season. Kelvin Banks, I like him at number 9 in my big board. I think he's a good offensive lineman. I think he's a really good offensive tackle that the Saints should definitely look at. I am not out on drafting in the trenches. However, we have invested a lot in the trenches, and I want to see the Saints invest elsewhere on the skill position side as well. And I do think that Kelvin Banks is a name to watch. I think that the Saints definitely need to add to the offensive line, and he is a name that should be considered. Malachi Starks, number 8, the safety out of Georgia. This guy is very, very good, and I think that the Saints could definitely benefit from having him around for the long-term future. We all know that the defense needs a little bit of an overhaul. It's a lot of age over there, and a lot of things have changed. You know, you lost Marshawn Lattimore. You're at the end of the careers of Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. So you need guys to take over for the future. And maybe guys like Jordan Howden and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Pete Werner can be those dudes, but also Malachi Starks is definitely one to consider. Tyler Warren at number 7, the Penn State tight end. What a player. This guy is so worth the number 9 overall selection. And I know that the Saints brought back Juwan Johnson. I know that the Saints have Foster Moreau. I know that the Saints have multiple tight ends on the depth chart. They even brought in Jack Stoll and everything. But this is a player who is not just a tight end. He is an offensive weapon. He is a freak athlete. He is incredible size. He is very, very productive. And he is a player that adds an entire new dynamic to an offense. And Kellen Moore, he is known for tapping into players' potential and tapping into their skill sets and appealing to those skill sets. And I think that him working with Tyler Warren would be super, super fun to watch. I definitely would like this pick at number 9 overall. We'll have to see what happens, though. Will Johnson at number 6 overall, the cornerback out of Michigan. Now, I do not have him as my top-rated corner, but he is definitely in my top 10 because he is, in my opinion, the best outside cornerback in this draft class, and I do like him as an option for the New Orleans Saints. They definitely have a need at corner. Like I said, you lost Paulson Adebo. You don't have Marshawn Lattimore. We all know that Yadam was pretty solid for the Saints, but that was a couple seasons ago, and Dennis Allen was the head coach. You also have Rico Payton. I'm very excited to see what he can continue to do. And you have Rajon Wright. Shout out to Last Chance U. But I will say this. I love the idea of Will Johnson as your guy opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think that would be an excellent addition. However, like I said, he's not my top cornerback. If you want to know who my top cornerback is, we'll reveal my top 5 here really fast. I got to tell you, though, about these awesome draft hats. These are the hats that the players that get picked by the New Orleans Saints will be rocking. So if you want to get your own, it has this awesome umbrella pin, by the way. These are some fresh draft hats. This entire series for all the teams across the board, I got to say it's the best one that I've seen in a handful of years. I love the pins that they all got like a little city inspiration for all those. And you got the feathers. Absolutely sick. It looks so dope. You should go get yourself one. Chatsports.com/Saints Draft. They got snapbacks. They got just the regular fitted flat bills. They got these ball caps. So go get yourself one. Link is in the comments section and description of this video. I'm going to be getting mine, and you should definitely get yourself one as well. Hit the link in the comments and description to support the show to get yourself some new gear. Let's go to number 5 here. Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. There's obvious connections to Kellen Moore due to the Boise State ties. He is the best running back in this class. The Saints have a need at running back. If you don't agree with me, argue with a wall. The Saints' rushing attack has been extremely underwhelming, and I know that the trenches aren't quite there for Ashton Jeanty to truly succeed. However, he is a special talent, and he's one that I don't think the Saints should consider letting get past him or past their pick. I will also add the Raiders are a team to definitely watch for drafting Jeanty. He has been mocked a lot to them. Shedeur Sanders at number 4, the quarterback out of Colorado. I would love this selection. I'm starting to get more and more convinced every single day that this is the guy that I want the Saints to pick at number 9 overall. Look, he's accurate. He's tough. He's a gamer. He's got swagger. He has a winning attitude, and he's been successful at every level. And I do think that he's a player that honestly could really add a spark to a Saints offense that really doesn't have much of an identity, doesn't have much of a spark. And you can't rely on Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara forever. You got to give somebody the opportunity to take over this team. Derek Carr is not the leader for the foreseeable future. We don't know what Spencer Rattler is going to look like for the long term. I will also add, Kellen Moore did say about Spencer Rattler, he expects a lot in year 2, in the offseason year 2, in terms of his development. But look, Shedeur Sanders is a special talent. He'd also bring a lot of attention back to New Orleans, and I personally can't complain as a Saints content creator. That'd be a lot of fun. I just think that this is definitely a guy that the Saints should look at. Shedorlins. If they end up taking him, we're going to be selling t-shirts that say that. Yeah, I think that this would be a really fun pick. Number 3, Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU. I know you guys were sitting here waiting. Where the heck is Will Campbell? Well, he's at number 3. The best offensive lineman, in my opinion, in this draft class outside of Armand Membu. And I would even argue that Will Campbell is maybe a little bit better. It's just hard to decide between the two. Both of them extremely good players. But I really like the idea of keeping the Louisiana kid in Louisiana. I think that he's a really, really good football player. You'd have your perennial tackles in Fuaga and Campbell. And honestly, you have Trevor Penning as a high-end depth piece. I don't think that that's a bad mix. Kellen Moore should definitely look at what the Eagles did in terms of refining that success and recreating that in New Orleans, and that started by building in the trenches. Will Campbell is definitely a guy that I would love to see the Saints pick, but I don't know if he would fall. Number 2, my top cornerback, Jadhae Barron, the Texas corner. He's versatile. He can play in the box. He can play outside. He can play back deep. He can do literally anything you want him to do. I am in love with this player. Every single day that passes, I watch more tape from him, and I fall in love with him that much more. I definitely think the Saints should make this as a pick. He has been mocked to the Saints before by some draft experts out there, and I will add that I think in terms of the long-term development for the Saints defense, he is a player that will fill not just one need, but multiple needs, and Brandon Staley could have a lot of fun with this player. Now, number 1 is Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. And I know a lot of y'all are going to sit here and rip me for having him at number 1. But I'm just going to make my case here. I know that Tetairoa McMillan, there's a video of him that recently surfaced of him saying that he doesn't like to watch tape and he doesn't like watching football, yada, 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 yada. I'm here to tell you, I guarantee you as a freshman in college said something you probably regret saying when you're looking to develop further. And also, you probably said something that was stupid as a freshman in college. That happened so long ago. If he could just prove that that's not his mindset anymore, I'm A-okay with this pick. His production is incredible. He fits the size profile of what the New Orleans Saints need in a big-bodied X-receiver. I really like the idea of bringing him to New Orleans, and I think that he could really help open up the Saints offense and really appeal to a player like Chris Olave, because I think that it would take a lot of attention off Olave and help unlock a player like number 12. If you think back to what the Eagles have done and how they've created their success, Devontae Smith, Eagles drafted him. He's a really good football player, a Heisman winner. I mean, a damn good wide receiver. but he never was truly unlocked until A.J. Brown came into the mix. And I think if you do the same thing with Chris Olave, you give him a big-bodied, physical guy like Tetairoa McMillan who can work over the middle, who can go and get those contested catches and just be a dominant force, that only helps Chris Olave. And that doesn't mean that Olave can't do these things. I just am so high on Tetairoa McMillan. I would love to see the Saints go and get him, and I think that should be the pick at number 9 overall. That's just my take. If you want to disagree, rip me in the comments. Now, while you're down there just roasting me and telling me that I'm an idiot, give me your top 5 draft targets. I want to hear who yours are. You just saw mine, but I want to hear from you. Who Dat Nation, I appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling with us. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Draft is almost here. We're going to be giving you guys videos almost every single day about the draft. We're going to be definitely giving you guys content all around this because it's the most exciting time of the year of the offseason. Who Dat Nation, y'all stay golden. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.